Hi, it's Erin, and we are going to set up my bullet journal for August in a sec, but first, quick story time about how I spilled fountain pen ink all over my journal. It was a lot like this actually, except that the lid wasn't on the bottle, so now I have that big patch on the cover and also these little splodges on the page edges. I'm not going to stop using the journal, it's really minimal, it could have been so much worse. But it actually happened during one of my members-only live streams where we mood board out the layout, like this page right here, we made this on the live stream. So if you want to see it happen, you can see it on my channel, but you're gonna have to be a channel member. This spectacular PET tape from London Gifties was the basis for this theme, but I wanted to have a bigger version of them on the left side of the page, so I actually generated this image with Midjourney. I messed around with the colors a bit in Photoshop to try and match it to the PET tape a bit better, and then I printed it out and cut it out with my Cricut. I didn't actually have the PET tape with me when I was editing the colors, so it isn't the best match, but I still really like it, I think it works, and I made two designs to start with because I wasn't sure which one I would like better, and I asked my channel members on the live stream and they chose the top one of these two, so that's the one we're going to use in the journal design today. In case you haven't been to my channel before, this whole fantasy vibes fairy tale storybook thing has been my thing this year. I am just so in my fairies era, I don't know what to tell you. So to really lean into that, I'm using this paper that is printed with text. I figured it would look sort of storybook-like. If you look really closely, it's actually dictionary definitions, but if you don't look really closely, then it's just pretty, and I am fine with that. As always, there are links to everything that I'm using in this video in the description down below, so if you'd like to get your hands on anything. Not everything I use can be linked, unfortunately, but everything that I can link to, I will make sure there is a link to for you. I love a torn edge, so I'm just tearing this paper up so that I can line the left and right sides with it, kind of in a diagonal sort of thing. And I'm using these silicone stamps as well. I love this kind of Art Nouveau looking corner stamp, and I'm using that with some Ferris wheel press ink. This one is called Glistening Glass. I actually bought this secondhand from my friend Meta. Thank you, Meta! Well, she was destashing and now it's mine, ha ha ha. I'm using my Ferris wheel press inks with stamps a lot lately because I haven't quite wrapped my head around the style of calligraphy that I want to do with them. But I am taking a modern calligraphy class with Icy of Icy Studio soon, so look out, I am going to learn and I am going to practice, but in the meantime, we stamp. I didn't want to go too hard on decorations for this theme, but I did feel like if I just put this beautiful sticker right in the middle here that it needed something going on behind it, so I've grabbed one sheet of scrapbooking paper out of a set, and I'm going to use that behind it. I also have these incredible stamps that I picked up while I was on holidays in the UK earlier in the year. They are really ornate letter stamps, and I was originally planning to use them for the beginning of my next journal at the start of next year, so I bought just the initial letters for each of the months, so I don't have a full alphabet's worth of them, but I do have an A, which means I can stamp a lovely ornate A for the beginning of August. The center part of these stamps, which is actually the part that shows you what the letter is kind of flat, so I found through trial and error in our live stream that I need to really massage the paper onto the stamp in order to get it to fully transfer across. And that can cause some bleeding issues, as we will discover on the next page. So I'm stamping this one onto sticker paper, and then I actually decided not to use it, and that's okay, because we're going to use it later. But at the same time I was making the stickers, I made this lovely Art Nouveau font style August header as well. I just thought it suited the scale of the cover page a little bit better, being a bit bigger and bolder. So now all we have to do is stick all of these elements down on the cover page, and then we can carry on to the quote page. It's already looking like the fantasy layout of my dreams, so I'm very happy with this so far. Leaning into that storybook kind of fairy tale vibe, I knew I really wanted to have, I think it's called a drop capital or an initial capital, where the first letter of a paragraph is significantly bigger than the rest. I had been planning to do that originally with another of those lovely stamps that you just saw me use for the A of August, and I thought it would be cool to have it in this beautiful holographic frame kind of situation here, but that's a complete sticker, like the plastic goes all the way through the middle, so I had to determine the area that I could put the quote in first, and then carry on to actually stamping it, and then stick the frame over the top, which is a little bit unorthodox. This stamping did not go as well as the last one you saw, unfortunately. You can see I'm trying to massage it through the paper. It's supposed to be an S, but you can't really see that it's an S, so I thought I'd add some more ink and try and stamp it on the paper again. I haven't turned the page, but I'm actually completely soaking the paper here and bleeding all the way through, which is not my favorite thing. It just isn't really working, so I thought I'd switch to these stickers. The sticker is a lot bigger than the stamp, but I was like, that's okay, I can still make this work. It's a sort of long quote, but it's not that long. So I'm using a bit of my sticker paper to cover my whoopsie there, and we're gonna focus on this lovely S sticker instead. The quote I'm going for here, I've actually mentioned recently in my flip through video for my first journal from 2023. The quote is, "Someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again," and it is a quote from C.S. Lewis, and C.S. Lewis wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, so C.S. Lewis knows a thing or two about fairy tales. 2023 has definitely been the year of fairy tales for me, both in my bullet journal and in my reading journal, because I've been reading a lot of fairy tale stuff this year. Well, fantasy, you know, same, there's fairies. And if you are interested in a little peek inside my reading journal, I posted a flip through of it last week, so I'll pop a link to that in the top right corner for you here in case you'd like to watch, as well as in the description down below. I know for a lot of people this one-by-one stamping system seems really unreasonable, but I actually sort of enjoy it. You get into a swing of things and then you stop thinking about it, and sometimes that means typos, but most of the time it just means cute on your page, right? I like how it looks. And now that we've got that quote down, I can start thinking about where I'm going to place these absolutely gorgeous, colourful windows from London Gifties. They are the entire inspiration for this theme, so it's about time we got some of them onto the page. I didn't want to just cover this page with more of that text printed paper, so I've grabbed out a set of stamps from Notebook Therapy. These ones are the Vintage Rose set, and I thought the mirror was appropriate because fairy tales, right? Like mirror, mirror on the wall. Which fairy tale is that? It's Snow White, right? I'm pretty sure it's Snow White. But there are also roses and cloches and such things in here, so it's just very fairy tale coded, I feel, this set of stamps, which is perfect for this. Again, I'm using them with the glistening glass ink from Ferris Wheel Press, and I'm probably using a little bit too much ink here because some of this is also going to bleed through the page. If you just use less ink, then maybe that won't happen to you the way it did for me. I didn't realize it was going on at this point, so I'm just going for it. And I wanted to connect up the stamps so they didn't look like they were just floating there in isolation, so I've just grabbed my brush and my ink, and I'm adding some extra petals floating in between things, little dots and stars and floaty bits. You know how the petals kind of float around Pocahontas whenever something slightly magical is happening? That's kind of the vibe I was going for here. A new challenger has appeared. I actually wasn't planning to use this PET tape in this setup at all. This is also from London Gifties. It is the Golden Frames with Stars tape. That top corner needed something, but I couldn't fit another window there. And look at that beautiful reflection on the frame, it's so good. Now we're going to turn the page and we're going to get started on the calendar spread, and check out that bleeding right there. That doesn't fill me with joy, unfortunately, but it's not the end of the world. We can fix that. The smaller ones, I'm just going in with a white paint marker and covering them up, but that one is from the stamp that I tried to repeatedly stamp there, so it's caused a bit more damage, but that's okay. We're going to cover it with some sticker paper later, but first I'm going to work out where this calendar needs to go. I love having a complete calendar in all of my bullet journal layouts so that I have somewhere to write events and reminders and anything else that needs to happen on a particular day. I always like my calendars to start on a Monday, but I also wanted to have a lot of space around it for decoration as well, so I've gone with 4 spaces by 4 spaces for the boxes on these ones, and I've just left one extra row at the top for me to put the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. along there. Now, this sticker paper is not the most inconspicuous way to hide a mistake that I've ever used, but it also is really fast, so this might be something I'll continue doing in the future. I didn't have sticker paper before this, so this is my first time trying it out, but it was really easy to go over the top of it because it's a matte sticker paper, so I just finished up those lines, and then you can see it, but it's not terrible. And now we decorate, which I'm doing in basically the same way for most of the spreads, where I'm going to layer some of this text paper, and then I'm going to pop some of the windows over the top and some of those lovely frames from earlier. For this one, I'm going to keep the decoration localized to the top and bottom of the page, and I'm going to leave the sides a little bit blank so that things don't get too overwhelming. I didn't really set out intending for this layout to be kind of blue themed, but we sort of ended up there. I think this is actually the only time I use this pen in the entire video. I do something similar later on, but I use the Ferris wheel press ink again. So this is the Tombow 569, which is navy blue, which is very nice. I'm just using it to highlight the space at the top of the calendar so I have a basis to put my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on there with, and I'm going to do that with my letter stamps again, and I'm going to use a silver marker so that it shows up against the dark background. It's not so easy to pick up on camera, but you can see it really well in real life, so don't worry, I can see my letters, it's going to be fine. I find when you're using PET tapes or PET stickers, especially if they're quite thin like these ones, it can be really hard to get the placement right because as it gets close to the page, it's kind of statically attracted and it will sort of just go where it wants. It's like magnets a little bit, you know? So I find that if I use my sticker tweezers and stretch it kind of taut, it's a little bit easier to get it exactly where I want it on the page rather than it just kind of swerving at the last minute. And of course, we need numbers for each day of the month so we know where we are. Ordinarily, for these letter stamps, I would go for a capital, but because the capital on the August is so ornate, I thought I would just stick to the lowercase, which we've already got elsewhere on the page, and kind of keep things a bit more consistent that way. And that's the calendar spread done. We're ready to turn the page and move on to the next ones, which are some more functional pages. This is the 1 line a day page on the left side that we're going to jump into first. I completely stole this layout from Little Olive Bujo on Instagram and it is gorgeous and I can't wait to start using it. I think they technically call it 2 lines a day on their page, but it's the same concept, it's just split into columns, so I'm just going to stick with 1 line a day. I didn't really think about it until this moment, to be honest. I have this thing about always trying to do things in the most efficient way, so I'm starting out with my letter stamps here, trying to just do all of the T's first and then all of the W's and that kind of thing, but sometimes that can really kick you in the pants, unfortunately, so I made a couple of mistakes as we went through here, but not as many as I could have. Like I really could have messed this up a lot worse, so that's always good to see it come together in the end. I absolutely could have just hand-lettered all of these and it would have been much more straightforward, but I wanted the look, you know? I wanted the look of the stamped letters and they were the perfect size for the 2 tall spaces here as well, so I just thought we're gonna have to do it. And, you know, I did have to get my white paint marker out and fix things a few times, but in the end you don't really notice that so much, so that makes me happy. The main reason I was so interested in this layout for a 1 line a day page is that it gives you this area in the top corner of the page to put some decoration. Rather than having to do a little strip at the top and bottom or something like that, you've got this little corner that you can just go hard in and let the rest of the page be functional. And I really like that. Now that I've discovered sticker paper, I think it's going to be really hard for me to go back to doing this kind of thing on normal paper because it's just so easy to stamp or letter onto this and then peel off the backing and stick it straight in the book. I get why other people do it now. It's all starting to make sense. And I do also really love that all of these little offcuts of sticker paper that I used through the rest of the layout were just leftovers from that initial piece that I used to make the cover spread design. So that's great, that's recycling. I've actually cut it up into smaller pieces and put them in the pouch at the back of my journal so that anytime I need to fix a mistake or put a heading over the top of something else, I just have some sticker paper ready to go. So good. Opposite the 1 line a day page, we've got my goals page, which I've laid out in a way to sort of flip side mirror the 1 line a day page on the other side. So it's going to have 3 boxes and then a space in the bottom right corner that I've currently just labeled pretty, which is where the decoration for this page is going to go to. So the first box is for goals, the second box is for favorites, and the last box is for musings. Sometimes I change up the size of these boxes depending on how verbose I'm feeling in a particular month. I said the first box was for goals, right? Well, I've changed my mind because favorites is a much longer word and there is a stamp in the way on that right box, so I switched them around at the last minute just to keep you on your toes. Favorites is for anything that I'm really into in a particular month. That can be music or food or TV shows or a movie or anything like that. The goals section obviously is for breaking down my yearly goals into more achievable, smaller monthly chunks. And the musing section is where I can just write down a bit of whatever is on my mind at the time for that month. And it's just a little snapshot into where I was at in my head for the month of August 2023. The decoration is basically exactly the same as what we did in the top left corner of One Line a Day. It's just not going to have a heading over it this time. And I was kind of auditioning different windows to go here, so I picked one that I liked, and then we just trim around the outside to get all the excess PET tape off there, stick it to the page, and look how pretty. That's really nice. I felt like it was missing something, but it was a very subtle something. I didn't want to do too much more, so I've just added a highlight on every second line of the boxes with a grey Tombow. It's the N89, I use it all the time, and then we're going to flip over to a condensed tracker spread. I was really determined to fit 3 trackers on this spread. I wanted to have a sleep tracker, which I haven't done in a very long time, a habit tracker, which I do every month, and a mood tracker, which I do most of the time, but not always. So I worked out how I wanted the sleep tracker to go because I haven't done it in a while, so I'm bringing back an old setup for that. I thought we'd put the habit tracker along the top, and then I could not for the life of me work out a fun way to do a mood tracker. I just couldn't think of anything. But I'd never tried a circular mood tracker before, so I thought, what the heck, we'll jump in, we'll give it a go. And I didn't measure the size for any of the spaces here, which is probably why it's not going to come out with the right number of spaces for the days that are in the month of August. I think there are tools out there you can buy that make this easier. I don't have any of them, so I was really just winging it, and you can see the spaces getting smaller as we go through and I run out of room. Look, we've ended up with 30, which is only 1 day less than the number of days there are in August, so I can live with it. I can just not track the 31st, that's fine. We're going to jump over to the sleep tracker for a bit here. This is a layout that I've used before, but not for some time, but my sleeping habits have been a little bit messed up lately, so I'm trying to improve on them. So it's a table over there on the left, and then one more table along the top that crosses the center of the page, which is where we're going to track habits in a very utilitarian but functional, useful way. The sleep tracker is going to have the number and the initial for each day of the week down the left side, and in that top row there's going to be some numbers from 10 through to 12, and then starting again from 1 because these are hours of the night, so 10 p.m. through to midnight, and then continuing on to 9 a.m. And the habit tracker also is getting a number and an initial for every day of the month, so I know where I am at. I really like having that initial. I find if I don't have it, I get really lost, so it's necessary. And I will also add it to the mood tracker later on as well. So the way this sleep tracker will work is that every day I will log the time that I went to sleep and the time that I woke up in kind of a line across from, say I slept from 11 to 7, then I will draw a line from the 11 to the 7 on that day, if that makes sense. How do I know the hours that I slept? Well, I check the Fitbit app. That is how I know. I'm very sorry if you don't have a wearable device. It's going to be a lot harder for you to track that kind of thing, but I'm sure it's still possible. You just maybe keep your journal next to your bed and write down what time you're going to bed, like turning off the light, and then maybe pick it up again first thing in the morning and check your watch and see what time it is, or your phone, as the case may be. Which leaves us with this space on the right-hand side where I'm going to decorate. I could have probably moved the mood tracker over and had it on the side and made drawing the circle a bit easier on myself, but I didn't think of that. And I don't always love having decoration in the center of the page because it can make the book a little bit harder to open and close and fold in the center there. So it's going on the right side. We're going to bring back another of those holographic frames like we used on the quote page, and I'm going to, of course, make sure that there is a pretty colorful window there as well, because they must be in every part of this setup. Once again, stamping my headings onto some sticker paper here. I don't have, as I mentioned, the full complete alphabet in those beautiful ornate stamps like we've used for the beginning of some of the other words in this setup. For instance, there is no month that begins with H in English, so I don't have an H stamp because I was only intending to use them for the months when I bought them. I wish I had bought a full alphabet, but it would have been expensive. So because I didn't want to just have like just the S and is there an M? Yeah, there's March. I didn't want just sleep and mood to have beautiful capitals and then have habits not have one and be sad, so I've made them all just the normal stamps this time. And since there was space in the middle of the mood tracker ring, I thought we might as well put something pretty there too. So I can fit a frame there, let's put a frame there. And we'll put the heading over the top of that. I used a slightly darker grey Tombow to do the top of both of those tables. It was the N79, so I'm jumping back in again with the N89 to do the numbers down the left-hand side and to offset every second row of the habit tracker. Sometimes a page just needs that tiniest little bit of an extra something to look complete, and this was what it needed in this case, so I think it came together pretty well. I'm also going to use those two same Tombows as well as two metallic brush tip markers from Artex to fill out the mood tracker, so I'm just going to colour in the space with the colour that corresponds to my mood for the month. I'm trying to match these colours as well as I can to the theme. I don't have a holographic pen, unfortunately. If that exists, please let me know because I need it in my life. So I'm just adding a little swatch of that above the mood tracker ring there so that I can assign each one a mood, and then I will know what colour to colour each of the spaces on the mood tracker when the time comes. I first paired these two pages together last month in July, and it just made so much sense to have two really functional layouts right next to each other. But I flipped the order this time, so on the left page we will have my meal planner and on the right page will be my spending log. Starting with the meal planner, of course, because it's on the left side, I'm going to letter the heading as always, and then we're going to draw a grid in the middle of the page with 1, 2, 3, 4 along the top. Those are representative of each week of the month, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday down the left side. You know the days. I don't need to tell you the days that are. I will use those spaces to plan meals for each day, and I will go to the effort of writing out which specific meal I will eat on which specific day, but then I won't necessarily actually eat that meal. I will just eat what is in the fridge and available to me, but at least by planning it, I have made sure that there is food in the fridge that I can just heat up or whatever, you know, meal prepping. It's really beneficial for me because I hate cooking, and I will really turn to takeaway a lot more frequently than I should. Now, a lot of things are going to happen all in one go here in a sec. I'm about to run out of my glue tape, which is a shame because I didn't have any more in the house, and in the time it took me to get more glue tape, I messed up one of my nails and completely broke another one. So let's just pretend that you can't see that and carry on with the new glue tape and pretend an entire day did not pass in between. Cool. In case you're wondering what that gap on the right side is for next to the grid of the meal planner, that is for a shopping list. So once I work out what I want to eat, I can make a little list of all the things I need to buy, and then I will add them to an app called Bring that my partner and I share so that when one of us is doing any kind of grocery shopping, we can just check the list and get what both of us wants in one go. Spending log, she never changes. I feel like you don't even need me to say anything about it because I've been doing this same spending log layout for so long, but it works, so I don't want to change it. And you can skip to the next part if you want because there are chapters in the description and in the timeline bar below, so you can just jump ahead if you don't want to see it. And if you do want to see it, this is where I track my spending. I write down everything I buy. It's pretty self-explanatory. The second column in these tables, the tables are exactly the same left and right. It's just so that I can fit two of them on one page rather than having to use a double page spread to track all of my spending. The second column in those tables is for category, so I categorize my spending, and at the end of the month I tally up everything by category, and I transfer it into an overall spending tracker that's at the beginning of my first journal for the year, so I can really see where all of my money went over the course of the year. Yes, it is terrifying the first time you do it, but it's also really rewarding, and it makes you make better choices. Super functional spreads done. We're going to turn the page. This one is my content planner, which is an essential spread for me. I actually recently made a video demonstrating how I use this spread. So if you are someone who has a social media presence online and you like to think about what you're going to post ahead of time and maybe even schedule it all out, I recommend that you watch that video. You might find it really helpful because I have a lot of accounts that I need to schedule stuff across. And if you watch the video, you will learn all of my secrets. It is linked in the description, of course, for your viewing ease, but it is essentially just another calendar, and I color code my different social media accounts, and then I write down what I plan to post on each day there while I schedule it so that I can make sure I'm keeping on top of everything. I make the boxes of this calendar a little bit bigger. I usually do 5 by 5 so that I have 4 very clear rows to track all of my content, because typically I'm tracking it across 4 different platforms or accounts, and then still have 1 row left over that I can write the number for each day in, and nothing is competing for space, which I really like. Check me out trying to get really creative about how I do this heading so that I can work in another one of these beautiful frame stickers. I think I did pretty well. It kind of looks like it's splashing through behind this bit of text paper. Go me. The content planner spread is done, so we're moving on to the very last spread for this layout, which is the first weekly for the month of August. If you are still watching at this point, please leave me a window emoji in the comments down below so that I know that you stuck around all the way to the end of the video. You are a trooper. Thank you for being here. I knew I wanted to be able to use maybe 4 of those lovely window stickers on this one, so I've oriented my weekly layout to the top of the page to leave me some space at the bottom to make sure I could put a bunch of windows in. I'm sort of treating it like a wall that has 4 windows built into it, but obviously they're 4 different looking windows with different plants around them. I borrowed the premise of this layout from Rafi Journal, and her version had the decoration at the top of the spread, so I just kind of moved everything up so I could have the decoration at the bottom, and hers also had beautiful curvy edges on the boxes. I was too lazy for that. I just have square boxes, which I think make more sense with the rest of the theme anyway. I'm going for consistency here, of course, so I'm going to do some more text along the bottom of the page, and then just using those weekly boxes as a bit of a guide, I'm just going to stick 4 windows evenly spaced along the bottom, just trying to work out the best order to put them in so that the colors look the nicest in order. And I think it's really cute, actually. Quite regimented, but it makes sense, you know? And because I can't leave well enough alone, I just thought it needed that little something extra, so I'm jumping back in with my grey marker again, accenting every second line of the weekly boxes, and I'm glad I did that, actually. I don't regret that. I think it helped a lot. And with that, we have completed my August bullet journal setup. Here is a little flip through to refresh your memory. I'm so happy with this layout. It's not at all what I expected it to look like, but I think I like it even more than what was in my head. Thank you for planning with me. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to give it a like if you did. Hit subscribe if you haven't and you want to see more of this kind of thing from me. I post new videos every Friday evening Australian time, so I'll be back again next week with another video. And I have a couple of years worth of previous ones if you'd like to watch some more. Until next week, stay safe and happy. I can't wait to see you again soon. Bye.